let's move on now to the Buffalo Bills in our free agency recap series. But before we do that, if you have not already, be sure to subscribe, like the video, and also ring the bell to get notified when we create new Bills content. This is the last series when it comes to free agency additions and offseason moves up until this point, as Ryan and I will start pivoting towards previewing the 2023 season, which means a lot of prediction videos in the preseason, season as well. So if you want to see more Bills content, ring that bell and also subscribe. It's the easiest way to help out the channel and have us grow. And Ryan, let's get into it here. So the Buffalo Bills fell just a little short in the divisional playoffs last year here to frankly just a good Cincinnati Bengals team. Yeah. And the Bills started out very hot, but then slowly started to fall down, particularly on the offensive side of the ball. And I think we saw it in the draft. That was some of the main things that they focused on as well. Like with their first couple of picks were offensively, but when it came into the free agent side of it as well, I think one of the biggest things was trying to replace guys that they lost, like Tremaine Edmonds. And how are they going to replace that, and what's their strategy from there? And I think they overall did a decent job kind of replacing that value from him. But I think that I think this Bills team is, I would say, maybe about the same as what they were at the end of last year.
Yeah, I mean,
free agency wise, I think their draft has improved them. Yes, in the long term.
And so for me, looking at their overall additions, I think this team is better. And to comment on what you said about the offense kind of sliding, I think they still had that huge home run ability, right? It's just, it felt like they were always swinging for the fences, and when you do that, sometimes you strike out, right? Like you have to hit the singles and the doubles and then go for the home run, right? Before, and it felt like that under Brian Dabble. They just had an offensive scheme that was absolutely dialed, right? The only reason they lost that Kansas City game was because they lost the coin flip, right? Mm-hmm. And then I think you look at what they did last year, and that offense really struggled in that playoff game against the Bengals, and they kind of did struggle a little bit down the stretch. So I think that's a really interesting storyline to kind of follow, is if this offense can really bounce back. And yeah, let's get into their additions, and we can kind of talk a little bit more about that, because they lost, one of their losses was Isaiah McKenzie, and a lot of people going into 2022 thought that he was going to be their slot. Who's the Cole Beasley? He's going to be their Cole Beasley replacement and play that slot role. And he's now gone. And I think Dalton Kincaid actually is going to come in and kind of play that more oversized slot receiver role.
It's going to technically be 12 personnel, but it really is going to be Stefon Diggs, Gabe Davis on the outside, then Kincaid in the slot, and Dawson Knox going to be lining up as a tight end probably.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I think that's a much bigger red zone threat as well. I think he's a little bit different than what they already have. Isaiah McKenzie, Stefon Diggs, and Gabe Davis. They're not they're all great receivers, but they're all kind of the same build, same kind of body type. While Kincaid is your big, really quick, and can run up the seams and has a wide radius to catch. But also now he have a much more consistent, I think, red zone threat on top of that. Nothing against Dawson Knox. I just think that receiving capability-wise, Dalton Kincaid is already ahead of him there. And so I think another thing, going back to your point, what you said earlier, is like they couldn't go get the singles and doubles, the things that to kind of move the chains. Feel like they really struggled with that. We've been saying that about the Bills since kind of this channel started. It's like, yes, they're winning, but it's like they can't run the ball. And one of the things I think on the free agency edition that they added, getting Connor McGovern, I think was a good piece coming from the New York Jets, adds interior offensive line depth. But then you add him now. From Dallas. My apologies. But you add him, then also the drafting Osiris Torrance as well, who we've been praising ever since we saw him in the Senior Bowl, and how he was clearly the best guard that was there, best interior offensive lineman there. Could have potentially been the top one to go off the board. So I think that they are making the steps in the right direction, because this team has to be able to be like 2nd and 7, and then be able to run the ball and get that down to 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4 on a consistent basis. And they just can't do that. They just have not been able to do that.
Yeah, no. And I think you look too, they brought in Damian Harris from the Patriots. They drafted James Cook in 2022. Then they also brought in Latavius Murray and traded for Naheem Hines last year. And I think they have a really solid running back group. My biggest thing is just, are they going to be able to utilize them to their strengths? And I think it's going to be a really interesting season for this offense. As a Patriots fan, I would like to see them continue down the same track. But as a football fan, the Bills in those Kansas City, Cincinnati, I think they even play the Eagles and the Cowboys this year. It's like those games are so exciting to watch when this offense is clicking, right?
Yeah.
And so seeing them kind of regain some of that, I think would be really cool to watch and provide for a lot of really entertaining football. So,
oh yeah.
I do want to go ahead. Let's move on now to their defense. And the big loss was Tremaine Edmonds in the middle. He played a huge role for them in 2022 and really started to come into his own as a true 3-down defender on running and passing downs, right? And I think losing him is a big blow to this defense. I also think you look this secondary, specifically Jordan Poyer, and then who's the other one?
Tre'Davious White, Micah Hyde.
Micah Hyde, yeah. Both of those guys are getting older, right? Kaiir Elam didn't play a big role for them last year. And so I just think this defense is going to be relying on offenses having to play catch up, right? And they definitely could do that with how potent this offense could be, right? You're starting to see the chinks in the armor, I think, for the Bills.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things too, I think then, to be fair, as I mentioned, like kind of that slide of the Bills is, when did Von Miller get hurt again? Was it around week 8?
Yeah, I think it was like week 6 or 8.
After that moment, it just felt like, especially in the later end of the season, this defense lost that punch. It felt like they could still get after the quarterback when Von Miller was on there, and it's Von Miller. Of course, he's going to bring so much more attention that's going to open things up for Ed Oliver, Greg Rousseau, Shaq Lawson. So to get after the quarterback, and when Von Miller went down, I'm even thinking too, and unfortunately, it was in the DeMar Hamlin game, but we're watching it, and it's the Bengals. And I think it was the second drive or the third drive for the Bengals when everything happened. But everything before that, Bengals were just methodically marching down the field. Now, it is the Bengals, but we've seen Miami do that. They almost did that against – they did do that against them with Skylar Thompson in the playoff game. Then even in the snow in Buffalo, everything should be in Buffalo's favor, and the Bengals were able to just methodically work the ball down the field and did not really seem like there was a pressure there. So I think Von Miller's health is crucial to the success of this defense because then he makes everybody better, similar to like Quinnen Williams on the Jets. His presence just it takes attention away from other guys who have good talent but just aren't as lethal as Von Miller is.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be really interesting to see because he's 33, I believe, coming off a torn ACL. And that is I think that's going to be a tough recovery for him to bounce back and be what he was a couple of seasons ago. So that'll be another interesting storyline to follow. And one of the guys that I thought would maybe be playing a bigger role would be Greg Rousseau. And I think he's been good for them, but they did draft him in the first round. And so I would like to see him take another step forward this year, maybe fill in a little bit on that Von Miller role and what they were expecting from him. But so let's transition over into what we think a successful season for the Buffalo Bills would be. And I think it's pretty clear, right? I think that they are on a track to win a Super Bowl, right? And I don't want to say that they're Super Bowl or bust, but they got to, I think, the AFC Championship game 2 years ago. Is that correct? And then the divisional round last year. And I think they need to be in a Super Bowl, right? The Stefon Diggs thing, I think both contractually and emotionally is winding down, right?
Yeah.
This defense is very much getting older, right? You have Von Miller, Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde. I think those are 3 starters that are all over 30. I'll have to look up the exact numbers, but I think they're all about 33. And then I know Matt Milano's not super young, so it's just going to be really interesting to see what this team does. And I think they really need to be pushing for a Super Bowl this year. And really anything short of that, I think, is a disappointment in Bills fans' eyes.
No, I agree. It's like you look at everything they have now. Stefon Diggs isn't getting any younger. Obviously, Josh Allen's going to be there for a while. He's their franchise quarterback. And if they have to blow it up and build around him again, and I guess Dalton Kincaid also, that's where it's going to be. I think that they probably would blow it up more on the defensive side of the ball first, because there is still some potential on the offensive side. It's like you just need to figure out your offensive line. But on the defensive side, though, I mean, you saw there's a lot of players there. There's a lot of players that they drafted several years ago. Ed Oliver's been on the team for several years. Greg Rousseau is going to be going into his third year. A lot of older guys, a lot of guys in secondary, as you mentioned. If they decide they're on contracts and they decide like, hey, we just for some reason cannot contend right now, we have to start over. I think that's going to be the side of the ball that gets blown up first.
Yeah,
it's going to be hard to move Von Miller. Also, I think you kind of would want to keep Von Miller for as long as he's there.
He has no cap hit after 2023. They signed him to like a 6-year deal, but it was only like 50 million guaranteed, and he's getting 25 each.
To like sign here for 6 years, and then we'll give you all the money now.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Okay. So that's not a bad deal.
Well, I think a lot of it's voidable. Like like only if he plays he makes money, basically.
Yeah.
And so I just think that like they're in a really interesting spot. This division is tough. I mean, I think the Patriots, they kind of showed it in the Week 18 game in 2022, but I think they're starting to figure out some of the Josh Allen stuff. I think the Patriots defense is also evolving to be much more athletic to keep up with Josh Allen. And in the past, what's really burned the Patriots is Josh Allen's ability to scramble, right? Their set plays, the Patriots can cover. It's just when things break down, they can't keep up, right?
Yeah.
And then I think you look at what the Jets were able to do last year, and they pretty much shut their offense down twice. And then, the Dolphins' offense, I think, is just as, if not more, explosive than this one, right? I think they have similar weaknesses and similar strengths. So the Bills are not a lock to win this division, in my opinion, but I think they are the favorite.
Yeah, no, and that's fair to say. And then now's the time to go and win a Super Bowl. It's Stefon Diggs isn't getting any younger. Von Miller's not getting any younger. This is the time now. And so if they fall anything short of that, or I'll say this, at least make it to the Super Bowl. Like just make it to the Super Bowl. Like get past the Chiefs, get past all those those demons. And it's come January.
Stefon
that's
Diggs
the biggest thing
this year.
Yeah. So like he's getting to that point where we could see and it happens with a lot of these receivers where you just get a point and then it just like father time comes in, then your overall play just goes down just because of age.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think it's going to be a really interesting season for the Bills. But let's go ahead and wrap up their off-season recap there. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe and leave a comment down below on what you thought or what your favorite Bills off-season edition was. Was it a draftee? Was it a free agent signing? Let us know down below. Other than that, we will see you guys next time.